Hey everyone, welcome back to Screen Review. My name is Megan.
I'm Hannah.
All right, before we begin, I'm just going to give a quick social media shout out. If you're not following us, you really should be at Boca Tribune. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find us at Boca Tribune. And this show, if you want to watch it later, will be archived on the Facebook, on the IGTV, and on YouTube.
Cool.
So today we're going to be reviewing Being John Malkovich, which was a fun movie. It came out in 1999. It is 1 hour and 53 minutes long and is rated R. So of course, always before we jump in, we're going to just kind of go through a spoiler-free general thoughts type review of the movie and then jump right into kind of more of the plot-heavy information. So Hannah, general thoughts, spoiler-free. What'd you think?
Well, like when I first watched it, the full way through, I was kind of just like, this was nothing. I had no expectations for this movie at all. I just knew the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't look at cover art, didn't read any descriptions. I only knew the name. It was
and you knew Charlie Kaufman and Spike Jonze were kind of.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. I did know that. So I did know it was going to be a movie with like important themes, and also there's going to be a relationship involved that's kind of broken. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I didn't know coming in like those two things were going to be present, but that was the only expectation. But then when I actually watched the movie, and it's so much more than that, which I think I appreciate. And I wasn't expecting it, like I said, not at all what I thought it was going to be. Because I've never seen a movie like that, like this. So I'm happy we watched it.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Kind of going on points, this movie definitely speaks to Kaufman and then Spike Jonze's style. We've reviewed quite a number of, I think, 2 Charlie Kaufman movies. I'm thinking of Ending Things, and then one other. I don't remember which one at this point. What was it? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was Spike Jonze, right?
No, that was Charlie Kaufman.
That was Charlie Kaufman? Okay, well, we also reviewed Spike Jonze, which was Her. So like Hannah was saying, kind of all similar themes, broken relationships. We can just go ahead and say lonely, pitiful men. And typically, strong women? I mean, can we just go ahead and say that for all of them? I would say those can kind of be seen as linking themes between them all. So of course you have those ideas going in. But yeah, this movie definitely is nothing like we were watched before. I mean, it came out in 1999, so it is a little bit of an older movie, but I mean, that really didn't take away from it. It was really well done. The acting was really of high caliber. Overall, I mean, it was a weird movie to get through. It was a weird movie, but I mean, I think the questions that it posed by the end and kind of throughout the movie really made it worth it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think I like when movies are weird, so I wasn't mad that it was kind of out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. And normally, I mean, Hannah and I take this time to kind of be like, Hannah always going on about the colors in the movie. I'm always going on about the soundtrack. And yeah, the soundtrack was great. Yeah, you could search and find symbolism within the colors or the outfit choices of the characters. But this movie, I really felt kind of was more about the plot than anything else. You know, you just kind of watched the movie and you got the idea of what they were trying to portray, or at least you had questions about it. There was nothing really kind of going off those main points that you really had to pay attention to, which was nice. I mean, I don't know. Other movies, I guess, 1999, I guess that was a little bit more standard. But I mean, don't quote me. Can't say for certain. Other than that, I mean, general thoughts, that's kind of all I have to say. What do you have to say?
Right. I mean, I was going to say the same. Like, we were kind of reaching for symbolism, or I don't know, something to talk about in this like spoiler-free version of discussing a movie and reviewing it. Mm-hmm. But on the face of this movie, there isn't a lot to talk about. It's like you said, it's in the details. It's the plot. It's what's it called? The dialogue. It's that. It's like their interactions.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I think this movie is absolutely worth the watch, kind of in a general thoughts overview way of saying it. But if you have not seen the movie, you should go to Netflix now and watch it. Again, you can find our video later on YouTube, Facebook, the IGTV, wherever. You'll find us at Boca Tribune. So go watch it, because now we're going to get into spoilers. So now we're in the spoilers section, Hannah. I don't know, kind of take us where you want us to start in the movie. You can start from the beginning if you want.
I'm gonna jump probably right to the end. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh.
I'm trying to think about. Oh, so the beginning. I see what you mean. Okay,
Yeah.
so the opening line. That's a good place to start. You're right.
At the beginning.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning. Okay,
Mhm.
so it's John Cusack.
Yeah.
What's his name? Craig. His name was Craig in the movie.
Craig
He
Schwartz.
is a failed puppeteer, boohoo, and is so sad that he can't do what he loves because he's not making enough money to satisfy what he feels he's worth, if that makes sense. Because he can do his job and he'll get money. He won't get as much money as he wants. Therefore, he opens this movie with the quote, "I think, I feel, I suffer," end quote. I mean, it's a little dramatic and like sad boy, but that's what he says.
All right, well, to kind of just go ahead and put a disclaimer out there, we don't like Craig. Really, don't feel any kind of bad feelings for him. You know, like I don't feel bad for him at all. And I would like to note that at this point, he is saying this because his wife kind of raises animals and fosters them and takes care of them because she's selfless and lovely. But also, sorry if my chair is creaking. I don't know if you can hear that. But regardless, she kind of fosters and takes care of animals and rehabilitates them. So she puts the task upon Craig to kind of watch after this chimp that they're taking care of, Elijah, who is recovering from a childhood trauma that he has. So he's a little bit, I don't know, closed off emotionally, like a little bit difficult to kind of break through. So he's undergoing therapy and all these things to make sure that he can be rehabilitated. And again, we are talking about the chimp.
He's real clingy. He likes to be in people's laps and arms and stuff. He's like a little baby.
He's like a little baby. He's sweet. But regardless, so that I think, I feel, I suffer, whatever stupid thing Craig was complaining about. He's saying this to the monkey. I mean, he kind of condemns Elijah, the chimp. He's like, oh, you know, it must be so nice. Like, you don't have a consciousness. Like, you can just sit there all day and be so happy and all this. Like, I think, I feel, I suffer. Ooh, my life is so hard. Like, feel bad for me.
Exactly.
And kind of jumping to the end of the movie, I mean, Elijah has this huge breakthrough. He's able to overcome his childhood trauma and rescue Lottie when she was stuck in that cage. So, I mean, again, I kind of joked about this earlier, but you know what? I'm gonna stick with it. Elijah had more character development than Craig. Elijah clearly had a conscience. Elijah thinks. Elijah feels. Elijah suffers. He was haunted by his past traumas, but he was able to kind of move past it and work towards something better instead of Craig, who just hid behind the wall that was John Malkovich the whole time to find his ideal version of success and happiness, which was just, I guess, like what you're saying, like an on the face better life than what he had.
Right, because he wanted the material, like, that's what's, you can say that this is true through him only being satisfied with his life when he was materially someone else, because he was still his same consciousness, but he was just in someone else's physical body, so he was in their material world and space, and that's where he felt satisfaction, only through being John Malkovich and like having that notoriety.
Exactly. Like being someone that people cared about, being, you know, having the beautiful wife, like having all the money, all the fame, like reinventing puppeteering, all these things. That's what he found, you know, success and happiness and whatever. But I mean, in the beginning, he could have found something similar to what he kind of created within Malkovich. But he just chose to instead kind of fall back and be like, oh, like Hannah was saying, like, oh, I can't have this ideal version of success. Therefore, I'm suffering.
Exactly.
Instead of just trying to like make do with what he had. I mean, even thinking about in the beginning when he was watching the TV, like watching that other famous puppeteer doing that weird thing on the bridge, like the big puppet kind of show.
Yeah. And he was like,
he was like, oh, like how gaudy, like how, how showy of you. Yet when he had the chance to do it, same basically. He was being showy, he was being gaudy, he was doing all those things because now he felt that it was okay. You know? He's just disappointing.
On top of this little let's poo-poo on Craig, he like never even got into any of Lottie's interests. All those animals living with him, she constantly had to remind him what their names were. And like those are your roommates technically, you know, those are your pets, they should be your family, but not just that. He's being a lot. Like he was being all sad in bed because he couldn't get his job, and she was like, oh, can you please just like check Elijah because he's like not feeling well. And he doesn't care at all. He believes that those things are lesser than him because they don't have the thing that he despises of in himself.
What is consciousness?
Like, yes. So that's
I agree with you. So then let's kind of, I guess, move it around to when Craig gets this job. I mean, floor 7.5 was interesting. Also, what was it? It was Octavia Spencer. What a fun little cameo to have her in the movie. She was the lady in the elevator. That,
yeah.
I forgot about that. I remembered because I love her.
Yeah, no, I remember. I just forgot that I remembered, but I do know what you're talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah, so he gets this new job, whatever, because it was an ad in the newspaper in the classifieds that said, you know, oh, we're looking for a man with nimble fingers. And he's like, oh, sounds like me. Sounds great.
Job, right?
Yeah, so he had to go. And then kind of immediately upon going into this, whatever, floor 7.5, going into Lester Corp, he's met with the, what was it, like, they called it like executive assistant or something weird, the receptionist, effectively. The receptionist, he went to go check in with her so he could go into his interview. And he was so, like, taken aback and almost offended when she, for some reason, couldn't hear what anyone was saying. But regardless, you know, he said, oh, you know, I'm Craig Schwartz. Like, I'm here to interview with Dr. Les. And she was like, oh, okay, Mr. Juarez, like, take a seat. And he was just so offended that his identity could dare be misconstrued by someone. And I just think that's funny because later on in the movie, here he is being all happy that he's John Malkovich, that he can be someone else.
Exactly.
Like, the inconsistency.
And it's the fact that Dr. Lester is man enough to be like, I'm the issue. I have a speech impediment. She can't understand me. Like, he doesn't even question her mind. He's like, no, she's good. I have the issue. And Lester knows he's never had a speech impediment, you know? So he's just like, it's me.
Yeah.
Whereas Craig...
Yeah, Craig takes it to heart. He takes it the wrong way. He's like, oh, like, you know, what's wrong with her? Like, why can't she understand anyone? Like, boy, what's wrong with you?
Because you're stinky.
You know? Yeah, and call him stinky.
I mean, he looked so bad the whole movie. He definitely
did look
stinky.
bad the whole movie. And not only did he physically look less than the whole movie, his personality really was horrifying. I mean, we kind of... Oh, we're going to go into his horrifying personality right after this commercial break. It's a smooth transition.
Information. If it exists in writing, we print it. If it exists online, we update it. If it exists on mobile, we notify. If it exists in video, we show it. If it exists in audio, we play it. In the past, the news had to wait for a paper to print for it to happen. Today, news happens in real time. It's analyzed, edited, and published immediately by us, your neighbors, and of course, you. Wherever you are, you write, edit, give opinions, share photos, and make the news happen. This is why a paper needs to be on print, on screen, and on your phone. Wherever you are, your news has its pulse in the community. The Boca Raton Tribune. We are much more than just a newspaper. We are your closest neighbor.
Lovely commercials. I enjoyed them.
I was getting into it. What the heck?
I was that last one. I was invested in the story. Regardless, follow us on social media for more fun information. Yeah, those were good. Regardless, follow us at Boca Tribune, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram? Yeah, there we go. We almost forgot about Instagram. But all of those, you'll find us there at Boca Tribune, and you can get the news on your phone, like the commercial, because the commercial was nice. Regardless, getting into Craig's horrifying personality, when watching the orientation video, he, as a doting husband, immediately sees the pretty girl in the corner and is like, hey, like, hey, I'm Craig. Her clearly not interested, clearly wants nothing to do with him. And he keeps on pursuing. And I just think that is also disgusting of him to do, because he is unsatisfied with his life literally every way that you can be. I mean, he's unsatisfied that he can't do his stupid puppeteering. He's upset that his lovely, selfless wife isn't good enough. Just regardless, this guy, he'll never truly be satisfied in his life. And I think that shows in all the decisions that he makes throughout the entire movie.
It's like the audacity that he feels entitled.
Wow.
To Maxine's body is disgusting to me.
I agree. Yeah. I agree with that. Yes, he has, I mean, yeah, really you put it perfectly. Yes, he does. He just feels entitled. He's like, it's not even that he's shocked or like taken aback that she rejects his advances. He's not even confused. He just keeps blindly going for it.
He just is, like blatantly disrespecting her constantly.
Yes, because because I'm so sorry. Within 1 week of having met someone, having like a couple interactions, you can't be in love with them. You just can't. You don't know you'd make a perfect couple. You don't know that you were destined to be together, Craig. You don't know these things. It's clearly just he's gross and just wants her for other reasons.
Exactly. And like, you just know that Maxine also hates him, because when she has the scene with Lottie where she says, I only kept the child because I knew it was yours, because Lottie was the only person she actually had like interest in. And I just think it's so ironic that dumb boy Craig, excuse me, oh my dumb boy.
Yeah, it just came out of you.
Anyway, to live inside that little girl's body for the rest of his life. I hope he dies in there. Oh, jeez.
Anyways, so we clearly didn't like Craig, but it's a little strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that serious. I don't wish death on anyone, but
very good. Very good backtracking there. Regardless, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, in this example, we'll say, does that punishment the crime? The crime of Craig. He now is stuck viewing the world and life through someone else's eyes, through the little girl's eyes. I mean, what do we think about that?
Just in general, like, how do I feel that he's stuck in a girl's body? In general,
it doesn't matter that she's a girl. It just matters that she's someone, because he's stuck in there. Like, you know how they were saying, like, oh, we don't want, like, whatever, like Dr. Lester and all his groups of people, they were saying, oh, we can't wait for Malkovich to expire as our new host, whatever, because then we'll be transferred into a child's body, brain, whatever, and we'll exist as almost as if we're in jail, just viewing the world through their eyes and just having no say in what they do. So how do we feel about that fate for Craig?
I got what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Well, never would have happened to him if he had literally just stopped. Like Malkovich said, it's my brain, get out. You're not allowed. And because he continuously just didn't listen, blatantly disrespected Malkovich too, to go over his whole body for years.
Yes.
Right? Was it years? Yeah, it was.
It was like 7 years and 8 months or something crazy.
And then poor Malkovich, he's doomed.
I mean,
because-
he's not himself ever again.
No, he's
Yeah,
lost it completely.
And I mean, yes, that's a whole other kind of thing that we can get into. No, you're not. It's fine. I don't really care. That's a whole other thing we can get into. But I guess more so with Craig, I mean, yeah, it's almost like kind of an issue of responsibility. He had an opportunity to just exist like Lottie, for example, inside Malkovich. I mean, I'm not saying anyone should have ever been there in the first place, kind of just like, calm down, guys. But regardless, he could have existed like Lottie in there, where she was just hanging out, you know, just having fun with her girlfriend inside Malkovich, you know, do your thing, whatever. But Craig had to take it to a level and become Malkovich so he could take Maxine. Like, it's just, again, exactly. And again, it's an issue with responsibility. Like, it was irresponsible for him to do that. It's not your life. It's not your body. Come on.
Again, it's like, it's just the entitlement. Like, he feels like it's his because he wants it. And that's just not how it works.
Agreed. And I guess kind of going off this little path that we're going down, I would like to almost, I read an interesting kind of article that assigned the id, ego, and superego to 3 characters, Maxine, Lottie, and Craig themselves. And I kind of disagree with who they assign to what, I guess, level of consciousness, if you want to call it, according to Freud, who would love this movie. But regardless, I mean, I believe the article, it said that the id was Lottie. It said that the ego was Maxine and the superego was Craig. I personally feel they got that completely backwards.
Yeah, I was gonna. What are your thoughts? And I'll say mine.
I mean, id, Craig. Sorry, like that's just it. I would say the ego, Maxine, is probably fine, and the superego, I would say Lottie. Would you agree with that, or do you kind of place them differently?
Well, I don't know. Okay, so explain what the superego is again, because I think maybe I have them confused.
The superego is kind of like the highest one. Like, is your moral, ethical values that you learn from social experiences in life. You know, like that's the last one to develop.
Okay.
According to psychology.
And then ego is what?
Kind of the middle one. It's called your mature adaptive behavior. It's again like the middle ground kind of between the id and the superego. So just imagine again kind of the middle of the road. Like, you're not adhering to moral, ethical values in a sense, and you're not adhering to your like inner desires, whatever. Like, it's just kind of like a compromise of both. Again, I took psychology online. Like, you'll have to forgive me. I don't have a perfect grasp on it.
No, you're fine. And then the id is just like
your desires and your physical impulses, like just like
your material obsession.
Yeah, or like your just internal desires. Like, an example that I saw in kind of a little PowerPoint thing, it said like, oh, you know, I want to eat something that's bad for me. Your ego is like, oh, okay, have like a square of chocolate. And then your super ego is like, oh no, like don't have anything. You're on a diet. That's just the example they gave.
Love it.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
So that's a little problematic, but it was good. It is
like the example they gave.
Yeah.
Yeah, your ego said you can have 1 stick of celery and 1 square of chocolate. Long story short, if you're hungry, eat.
Superego says that you're on a diet, so
yeah, just lock yourself in your room. You know that? Oh, sorry, I'll tell you after. But
no, example all the time when the guy locked himself in the room for 2 weeks because he got bit by a spider.
Yeah, that movie was insane. That was a fever dream. Regardless, so I kind of assigned people to what I think their roles were. Do you agree to this?
No, I actually, yes. I agree. Okay. I think that's exactly right.
Yeah, I would say the id, obviously, you know, your innate desires would be Craig, because that's the entire way he lives his life. He has no sense of morality, no sense of values, no sense of middle-of-the-road compromising decisions. He wants Maxine. He will do anything to meet those ends. He wants to be a famous puppeteer. Same thing. I would say the ego... I would say the ego would be Maxine, simply because, I mean, yes, she still has those innate desires where she was kind of vacillating back and forth between like Craig and Lottie, and just, oh, what do I do? Like using Craig almost in a sense just for money and things. But at the end of the day, I mean, she ended up with Lottie. She kept the baby for Lottie. And the superego, I mean, come on, she raises animals, like, to rehabilitate them. She didn't do anyone wrong the whole movie.
She went to bed because she was tired of taking care of her babies. Like,
Exactly.
She's doing a lot.
She is doing a lot. So I guess, I mean, kind of a couple more things to discuss, I suppose.
Okay.
Why do you there was significance between floor 7.5? Why not just make it a regular floor?
I didn't even like, that struck me at first. And then I was kind of just like, oh, I don't know. Because I know that like 7 is like a heavenly number. I don't know if that's true, but like,
Couldn't tell you.
however, I was trying to wonder why it was 7.5. And then isn't that how long he was in Malkovich's body?
Oh.
Like
No.
7.5 years?
No, because it was 8 months. So it was like 7 years, 8 months. So not quite, but like almost, honestly. That could definitely be a reason why. A lot of things that I've read and kind of thought upon myself, I suppose, would just be 7.5. I mean, everyone in that floor would have to be crouched over at all times, just kind of showing their like stunted emotional growth. That was the direction some people took it in. It's where, like, you know, if you're on floor 7.5, like, you can't really grow as a person. And I mean, we definitely see that. I mean, Craig didn't grow as a person at all, and Maxine didn't grow as a person typically until she left that job.
Yeah.
She only changed after leaving.
But every scene we saw Lester in was in his home, but also like he didn't really undergo any growth either. Exactly. He was just there for a temporary time and then he left.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of reasonings behind that it could be. I also thought that it was interesting that Charlie kind of, his original idea for this movie, it just started off, he's like, I want to make a movie about a person falling in love with someone else's wife. And this is where he came. That's what he finished at. I just think that that's funny.
Because that kind of happened.
I mean, it happened.
At the end, Maxine was someone's wife. So
Lottie was also someone's wife.
Oh, I guess I didn't even see it coming from her point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so interesting. His mind. If I could go into someone's mind for 15 minutes, it'd be Charlie Kaufman. I
don't want to go there. It's probably so sad.
I just want to know if he's okay.
No, I don't want to go there. What did he say? His like worst ever like bodily experience is someone reading his work to him. Like,
did he say that? Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, he's like, movie premieres aren't exciting for me. Like, they're just scary, just in case no one likes it. Like, it's so sad.
Like, spoiler alert, people are gonna like it just because you made it. Ooh,
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, this movie was nominated for like 3 Oscars. It didn't win any, but it was nominated for them. It was like Best Director, Best Screenwriting, and then Best Supporting Actress in Catherine Kinnear or Maxine.
Yeah,
so,
that's good.
Yeah, go off, guys. Regardless, she did do a good job. So kind of at least the final piece that I would like to add to this little movie, it's my little fun fact saving for the end, just for you, Hannah, and anyone watching.
I'm excited.
Yes. It's not that exciting. Like, take your expectations way down.
All right.
But regardless, Spike Jonze, I guess, well, let's provide a little bit of background. So at an interview promoting Incredibles 2, Catherine Kinnear was presented with the question. Yeah, I know. Catherine Kinnear, Maxine, was presented with the question by a reporter saying that, you know, there's been a couple theories jumping around about the potential of this movie being John Malkovich existing in the same universe as Get Out, Jordan Peele's movie. And she said, I don't think that sounds like a really plausible theory. And I mean, I'm going to hop on Reddit after this and look into it. But they call it the mind control universe, and it exists in the same playing field. Spike Jonze and Jordan Peele both agree. Peele said, as far as I'm concerned, it's true that they exist within the same universe. and there has been talks about a little combination movie, perhaps.
So I have a lot of thoughts about this. Number one, right? It's bursting out of me. I hope that happens. I would love to see a collaboration between the two of them. I would die for that movie. I would go see that in a theater.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like waiting for Candyman to come out, and like it got delayed, whatever. But that would be so interesting because, yes,
I would say that we're two huge Jordan Peele fans. Every movie that he's come out with, I'm just, again, like Candyman, I cannot wait. I can't wait. Physically. Regardless. And so I think it's super interesting that they exist within the same universe. I mean, this is kind of an idea that we can bounce around and talk about. I would maybe like to review Get Out for one of these little shows.
Okay.
And see.
Well,
it would be a lot to unpack, but
when I was watching that one video I watched to talk about whatever, but I haven't talked about it yet. But anyways,
talk about it.
I'll talk about it afterwards, after this. But there was a little video at the bottom for like recommended videos to watch after, and it was a Jordan Peele discussing Get Out and like answering rumors about the movie or whatever, or like debunking myths and stuff like that. So I wonder if someone brought that up and he talked about it, if it was like a rumor or a myth. But of them existing in the same universe, like I guess like you can make it like, I mean, just because it looked the same cinematographically, whatever, you know, with the being in the back of someone's head versus like being in your own mind, you know what I mean? Like to me, it was more like someone's consciousness existing at the husk of their body, which that's how it's been described. Like your body is a husk and your consciousness, like your soul, is something separate that lives inside of it. Kind of like it needs an unthinking but livable container for an immortal, thinkable, like thinking consciousness. So I think that's more what it was versus like it being in the same universe. I think it was a depiction of someone's consciousness inside someone's mind.
I mean, kind of to your point, why can't it be both? I mean, they're like, yes, they kind of tackle different themes. I would say perhaps being John Malkovich tackled more philosophical themes versus Get Out. Rock my world. But I mean, again, yeah, why can't it be both? I mean, again, it was a relatively similar, I mean, very different movies, but kind of taking it down to the nuts and bolts. Very similar movies. You know what I mean? Just existing within someone else. I mean, you have to, I guess, think about it. You know, where did John Malkovich go when everyone took over his soul, his spirit? Like, yeah, he's the husk, whatever. But where did his soul go? Where did his consciousness go if it exists as a separate entity? Did it go in the sunken place? I don't know. It didn't explore that in the movie. I'm curious. I'm curious to see, because then it kind of makes me wonder, I guess, kind of in this movie being John Malkovich, did John Malkovich's soul consciousness, did it die? Did it live there with the people?
I think probably because, well, two thoughts. One, is Craig therefore in the sunken place? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that's his jail, is that place.
Yeah.
And then two, Malkovich at first didn't realize there was someone else there with him.
Yes.
So he thought that that person's consciousness was his own. So maybe it's not so like it's one person versus another. Like I think it depends like how far you are in the sunken place to realize if these are in the same universe. There's a certain threshold to where it holds. You know what I mean? Like I think you have to be there for either long enough or deep enough. I don't know how to describe it, like temporally or space or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I agree with what you're saying, but I would almost kind of like to counter what you were saying. When Craig left Malkovich's body before all the people came back into him, the first thing he said was, "I'm free."
The first thing Craig said when he left Malkovich's body.
I'm sorry. Malkovich. The first thing Malkovich said.
Okay.
Yeah, he was like, "I'm free." Like, finally. It's been so long. So he kept his consciousness. He kept his soul. He was there. It's just almost to the point of, where is he? Where do we go? I mean, you can see this question when Craig first finds that little door and goes down the little pathway. Like, he's like, am I me? Is Malkovich Malkovich? Like, what does any of this mean? And I guess, I mean, the movie doesn't really attempt to answer any of these questions.
Well, I think it gets to the point of perception, to where like the public thought Malkovich was Malkovich when they saw him, but we, the viewer, knew that it was actually Craig. And so because we had the outside view that the public would never see. So it's like, how do we really know if anyone is anyone if we're only seeing their outside persona and not their actual consciousness? So like, we can't see the contents of someone's, like, I don't know, ideals if you're only looking at them at their face, because they're not giving you a full image of who they are.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I would agree with you. And I think this movie does a really good job of kind of exploring that idea, because Malkovich was also presenting himself extremely differently when he was taken over by Craig. I mean, a random switch to puppeteering and being like excellent at it after not even talking about it once in your life. I mean, someone should have questioned something. But in a society that rewards, I mean, doing well money-wise, no one cared. They're like, exactly. Oh, cool, look at John Malkovich. He's so successful. Look at him teaching this class in Juilliard and being a complete annoying person while doing it, yelling at the students. Like, it's a puppet. Like,
I know, and then getting up to show them.
I know.
And
I think it's funny to weep. Like,
I think it's funny that they had Sean Penn be the one. Like, out of anyone they could have had come on to have that line, and also Charlie Sheen. Like, who? And who? I guess now I'm just realizing, like, who is this cast? Like, they picked everybody. It's just like, it feels obscure, but it also feels right. Like, it couldn't be anybody else, and the meaning would be lost if it was someone else. Like, I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, so Sean Penn was a really good pick for the one line he had. Charlie Sheen had, I think, maybe 2 lines, you know.
He had a couple.
But yeah, I don't know. I was talking to Megan earlier in our little pre-show. I'm going to segue into my thoughts really quickly.
Okay.
But I'll do it quick. I was thinking, let me know if you guys also agree, can we consider Craig to be a representation of capitalism? A place where competition exists because he has that business and he was competitive, he was selling whatever, literally privatizing someone else's bodily autonomy. And so there's that. Can we consider that to be a capitalist? Is Craig capitalism? And then can we consider Lester to be a representation of communism, where he was willing to share his goods? Everything was a public good. There was no privatization. There was no separation. Everything was shared, whether it be his information about how to switch bodies, like he was giving to Lottie free of charge, literally telling her how to live eternally and forever, just because she was nice. What the heck? Anyways. But,
and did the same to Sheen later on in the movie.
Exactly, because he found people that he trusted, and he knew that trusted him back. They had that mutual trust, and therefore he opened his community to them, which is how a communist system should work. It should be he's just knocking things down, but yeah. So that's my question. Can we consider those two things, or look at everything?
Regardless, answer your question. I mean, yes, in a Charlie Kaufman movie, I really think that anything goes. Anything that you can watch in his movies and kind of pick out and see, I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, it would apply. And I think that those applications work really, really well because, like you said, Craig is someone that thrived off of competition and being the best. You know what I mean?
Like materially, monetarily.
Yes. And like how you were saying earlier, like face value, the best. I mean, again, pretty wife, nice house, successful career, lots of money. That's you killed it in the game of capitalism. You're done. That's it.
Up to you.
Level 100.
Die in your house. Did it. I need to stop telling him
you have to stop, regardless. And then whereas, like we were saying with Dr. Lester, I mean, like he was so nice. He said, like, oh yeah, like I found out how to live immortally. Like I'm immortal, but
you want to come?
Like the one thing that I really wanted was just to bring my friends with me. Like that's why I have all these people here. Like guys, you want to meet Lottie? She's super nice. And I think that that's really interesting and sweet that instead of kind of hoarding the wealth of information, we'll say, the wealth of living forever, he chooses to be like, I think that you're a nice person. I think that you would benefit from this. Come join me. Instead of being like, no, I won the competition. This is all for me. Like, I did it. You can't have any. You're gonna die of old age. That's funny. I can't do that.
Like, they're not even wasteful. Like, in capitalism, it's so easy to just like, oh, it's expired, throw it away. Oh, it's no longer good, throw it away. Oh, it's used, throw it away. Like, they lived in those bodies until they no longer could live in those bodies. You know what I mean? They didn't waste the host they were in.
Yeah, and I think it's also kind of important to note that they chose John Malkovich on his 44th birthday to kind of transition into him. Like you were saying, they weren't wasteful. They lived in those bodies as long as they possibly could. Whereas Craig, who on Malkovich's 44th birthday was like, ugh, why couldn't I have gone into the body of a younger man? Like choosing to complain about the success that Malkovich has given him. Whereas Lester and his little community of people they're getting another chance at life.
Exactly.
And it's just the difference.
So yeah, that was my 2 thoughts about whether or not it could be capitalism versus communism. I also had my little thought. I'll bring it up real quick and then we can segue into our final thoughts. Yeah. But yeah, so really quick. In the world of dualism that discusses whether or not we have a separate mind from our body, dealing with our consciousness, our subjective experiences, compared to our objective, I'll say, physical or material perspectives. So how you feel versus kind of what your body makes you feel, if that makes sense. Whether or not they're separate. I was watching this video that described Craig to be full consciousness, where he was able to insert his consciousness into somebody else because he wanted the material success of someone around him. But he wanted to be able to transport himself into that person just for the temporary time. And so I guess that was material. I'll take it back. He was material because he wanted the notoriety from Malkovich's name. That's it. That's all he cared about was the material goods. Whereas Lester was more of the consciousness because he didn't care about the materiality. He just wanted his body, his soul, basically his consciousness, to be alive forever. And that's what he cared about. So I don't know. It was a lot, but I thought it was interesting to at least mention. The video is like one of the first ones you can click on YouTube if anyone watches this is interested in watching it. That video specifically, it was fun to think about.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting point to bring up. I don't know. I would agree with what you're saying. I think that we could maybe even tie that into the ego and super ego discussion earlier. I think that it could also kind of apply in that sense, but delving into the duality of consciousness and soul and self might not be something that we can do so neatly and quickly.
No, that's why it's like kind of final thoughts. These are my tidbits that are left in my brain after watching this movie and that video. Here they are on the plate, you know?
Take what you want.
Yeah.
Regardless. So, I mean, final thoughts of the movie. It was weird to get through, but overall, again, like this kind of discussion that we have fostered together, it's interesting. Any movie that you can talk about for 46 minutes and counting is definitely one that's interesting. I love movies where you can just have like a bunch of thoughts, like let it kind of like just let the movie sit in your mind for like a day or two or whatever, and just find more things to talk about within the movie. You know, I think that's interesting. I can't even speak. I'm being taken over.
No, it definitely it is. It was a lot. And like so one of the videos I watched, it was like, there's a lot to unpack here. And I love when they say that. But
yeah, I know. I say that ironically all the time. Like, just like, let's unpack this. I think it's hilarious. If I ever say it, it's ironic.
Okay. Is that so not sarcastic, just ironic?
Both.
Okay. Both? Why are you always, can it be both? Okay, maybe. Can it be one thing?
like the taco commercial.
Oh,
why not both?
Just like that.
The whole town celebrates her. Why aren't you celebrating me? Like,
I'm gonna have tacos now. So you
regardless.
did that. Yeah, so this was a great show. I'm gonna make tacos.
Okay. Final thoughts. We recommend this movie. You can find it on Netflix. I mean, hour and 53 minutes. It was a 1999 movie, so they don't feel the need to make it 2.5 hours long. It's perfect.
Good for them.
You know?
That'll be in that time.
Mm-hmm. Join us next week, next Tuesday, 7 p.m. We're going to be talking about Dallas Buyers Club on Netflix. We'll likely be roasting Matthew McConaughey the whole time, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, his hair now is a lot. I'm excited.
We'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Jinx.